Hey everyone, welcome back. It's time for another deep dive.
Yeah.
And today we're going to be talking about shame.
Ooh.
Specifically, how shame can really get in the way of healing from trauma.
Yeah.
We're going to be looking at some awesome material from Chris from the core.
Yeah. Chris's stuff is really insightful.
Really, really interesting stuff.
Yeah.
So to kind of kick things off, I think one of the most interesting things that Chris points out is that shame is not just like a bad feeling.
Right.
It's actually like this protective mechanism.
Exactly. It's like this weird paradox, right?
Yeah.
It's trying to protect us,
It's trying to help.
but it ends up kind of backfiring.
Yeah, it's almost like it's saying like, this is too big,
Too scary.
too much. Let's just bury it.
Let's not even go there.
Let's just pretend it's not there.
Right. And that's where we get stuck.
Yeah.
That's how shame ends up building a wall around our trauma.
Right.
It keeps it hidden, but it also prevents us from actually doing the work to heal.
Right. And Chris connects this to a really fascinating concept called basic goodness. Have you ever heard of this?
Yeah, it's from Tibetan Buddhist tradition.
Okay.
And it basically says that at our core, we are all inherently good, right? So if we can tap into that fundamental goodness, it helps us see our flaws as less,
Yeah.
like these terrible things.
Less significant.
Yeah, less significant and more deserving of compassion.
Right. So instead of beating ourselves up for our past, we can approach our imperfections with kindness,
Exactly.
knowing that we're still worthy of love and healing even though we've made mistakes.
Right, like we're all the work in progress.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Totally. Now, Chris actually shares a lot about their own personal struggles with shame, which I think is really relatable.
Oh, absolutely.
They talk about recognizing when shame pops up
Uh-huh.
and feeling this urge to confront it, like bring it out into the open.
Right.
But then there's also this like fear holding them back.
Totally. Like, what if people judge me?
What if they reject me for this part of myself that I'm ashamed of?
Exactly.
It's tough.
It is. And Chris even talks about how sometimes when they have tried to be vulnerable, they have actually experienced rejection,
Oh, wow.
which unfortunately just reinforces that shame.
It's like a vicious cycle.
It is. It really is.
So to work through their own shame, Chris worked with a coach using a really interesting technique called waking hypnosis.
I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of it?
I haven't.
Basically, Chris describes it as closing their eyes and kind of scanning their inner world,
Oh,
almost like they're searching for something specific.
interesting.
And they literally found shame.
Really?
They describe it as this huddled man
Huh.
hiding behind a door in a dark room.
Wow, that's powerful imagery.
It's so vivid, right?
Yeah.
And then Chris went on to search for another part of themselves that represented caring.
Okay.
And they found it in the form of their mother.
Their mother.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So they visualized their mother as this embodiment of caring energy
Okay.
and brought her into that dark room with the huddled man.
Oh, wow. So what happened next?
It's really beautiful. So Chris describes how the mother figure helps the huddled man stand up.
Oh.
She dresses him
Okay.
and even dances with him.
That's amazing.
She basically transforms this dark, shame-filled room into a bright, welcoming kitchen.
Wow. It's like a visual representation of compassion, literally transforming shame.
Totally. It gives me chills just thinking about it.
Yeah.
But what I'm wondering is how can our listeners do that if they don't have like a specific person they associate with caring?
That's a good point.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it speaks to the heart of what Chris is getting at.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a literal person.
Right.
It can be anything that evokes feelings of love, compassion, or support.
Okay.
Like maybe a pet or a place in nature,
Gotcha.
a spiritual figure, or even just like a feeling of inner peace.
I love that. It's about tapping into that inner resource, whatever it may be for you,
Right.
and using that energy to kind of face the shame.
Exactly. And that brings us to another fascinating point that Chris makes.
Okay.
The concept of the wounded healer.
Oh, yeah. You mean the idea that we can become experts in the things that have wounded us most deeply?
Precisely, Chris argues that our shame, the thing we often try to hide, can actually become a source of strength, even a gift that we can share with others.
So by working with our shame in creative ways, we can transform it into something positive.
Yeah.
Something that can help us heal and potentially even help others heal too.
That's exactly what Chris suggests. It's about
Yeah.
recognizing that shame doesn't have to be this debilitating force that keeps us stuck.
Right.
It can actually be a catalyst for growth, creativity, and connection.
Wow. I love that perspective.
Yeah.
So how do we actually do that?
Yeah, how do we take this heavy thing,
Yeah.
this thing we often hide, and turn it into something that helps us heal?
Right.
Well, Chris talks about the power of creative expression. Think about things like art writing, music, dance,
Yeah.
anything that lets you kind of externalize those tough emotions.
So it's about finding what works for you.
Exactly. It's about that authentic self-expression.
Does it have to be like a masterpiece or something?
No, not at all.
Okay.
It's more about the process.
Right.
Like, even something as simple as journaling can be really powerful.
What I find really inspiring is that Chris isn't just talking about personal healing here.
Right.
They actually believe that when we share our creative expressions, we can help other people heal too.
It's true. There's something about vulnerability. When we dare to share our stories, our struggles, even our shame,
Yeah.
it creates space for other people to do the same.
That's like a ripple effect.
Exactly, a ripple effect of collective healing.
It makes you realize how much power there is in connection.
Absolutely. In knowing that you're not alone.
Right. So to bring this back to our listeners,
Yeah.
if someone's feeling stuck in shame, what are some things they can do like today to start moving forward?
Well, first of all, remember that shame is a natural human emotion.
Okay.
It's not a sign of weakness. It's not something to be ashamed of.
Right.
Ironically enough.
It's more like a signal
Yeah.
that something needs our attention.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that brings us back to that concept of basic goodness.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that inherent worthiness within ourselves, regardless of, our flaws or our past mistakes.
And that's where the real transformation begins, right?
Absolutely. When we can look at ourselves with compassion,
Yeah.
then we can start to work with shame rather than against it.
I like that. So thinking about Chris's story,
Yeah.
they use waking hypnosis,
Right.
they embrace creative expression,
Mm-hmm.
and they sought out safe spaces to share their experiences.
Exactly.
These are all things that anyone can do
Right.
to begin their own journey of healing.
It's about finding what feels right for you.
So for our listener, maybe it's about picking up a journal
Yeah.
and just like writing down your thoughts and feelings.
Without judgment. Exactly.
Or maybe putting on some music and like dancing it out.
Yes. Let your body express those emotions.
Or even just reaching out to a trusted friend.
Absolutely.
Or a therapist.
Sharing what you've been holding inside.
It's about taking that first step, however small it may seem.
And remember, you don't have to do this alone.
That's so important. There are people who care.
Yeah.
People who want to support you on this journey.
I think Chris's story really reminds us that even in those dark corners of shame,
Yeah.
there's always that spark of hope
Absolutely. A potential for growth.
and a path toward healing.
So let's leave our listener with a question.
Okay.
What's one small step you can take today to explore and express shame in a creative and healing way?
Yeah, it could be anything, right? Like maybe dusting off that old guitar in the closet.
Yeah.
Writing a poem you never thought you'd write.
Uh-huh.
Or even just like taking a moment to just sit with your feelings.
Yeah, just acknowledge them without judgment.
Exactly. There's no right or wrong answer. No, not at all. What matters is that you take that first step, however small it may seem.
Right.
And remember, shame thrives in secrecy.
Oh, that's a good point.
So even if you're not ready to share your creative expression with the world, just the act of creating can be so liberating.
Like you're giving yourself permission
Yeah.
to feel, to process.
To heal.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And that's where the real magic happens.
that's it.
When we can face our shame with compassion and creativity,
We open ourselves up to so much possibility.
to growth and transformation.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing to think that something that can feel so isolating,
Right.
so debilitating,
Uh-huh.
can actually become a source of strength,
Absolutely.
of connection, even of beauty.
Yeah. And as we wrap up this deep dive into shame, I want to remind you of one of the most important takeaways from Chris's work.
Okay.
You are not alone. Countless others have walked this path before you,
Right.
and countless others are walking it alongside you right now.
And that's the beauty of it.
It is. When we share our stories
Yeah.
and support each other, we create this collective wave of healing that can ripple out and touch so many lives.
So as we go about our day,
Yeah.
let's hold on to that sense of hope.
That belief in our own inherent worthiness.
Right. And the knowledge that even in the darkest of places,
Even in the darkest places.
there's always a path toward the light.
Absolutely. And shame doesn't have to define you.
Right.
It can be a stepping stone on the path to becoming the most authentic, compassionate, and wholehearted version of yourself.
Such a powerful message.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time.